welcome to day 2 of the Explore Meditation 5-day live class. I'm really excited today because I'm just actually dipping out of another course I'm attending on permaculture, and it's been such a beautiful course that I'm really enthused about it and about life and about just the synchronicity and the weaving together of community and nature and states of meditation. All of that. So, welcome on. Welcome on. If you did day 1 and listen to day 1, and if you haven't, please go listen to day 1 and do the homework. What we went over was what meditation really is, what are some common myths around meditation, and then what is it really? And we did a guided meditation that I think was pretty beautiful, and a lot of people who came found it very beautiful. So please go listen to day 1 if you haven't yet. And the homework that went along with day 1 is a writing activity of journaling what is right intention in your heart. What is it that your heart really says? Because if we look at the translation of meditation from Pali, one interpretation of it is it's about right dharma, right intention, which has to do with that heart space. So if you haven't done lesson 1, please go do that, because they all build on each other. So today we're going to talk about the tools of the trade and what are different ways, different tools that you can use to access meditation. And then we'll do a guided meditation, and there'll be a little piece of homework as well. So let's get started, and if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Happy to answer them. So often when we think of meditation, right, we think of the breath. When we think of a meditation practice, we think of sitting down. When we practice meditation, most often it's with our eyes closed, sitting down, noticing the breath. And those are all very important tools. The seatedness, the posture, the erect spine, the darkness that comes when the eyes are closed, maybe not doing it in the middle of a rock concert, so the silence, that's another tool that we can use to facilitate the process of meditation. But there's quite a few different ways that we can access it, so I'll just go over them quickly and then we'll get into an experience. Here are 10 tools that I think are very helpful to think about, to explore, to play with. And as I go over them, think about, what I'd like you to do is think about, well, hang on, where have I used this? Where have I experienced this already in meditation? And then also think about, because I'll ask you at the end to pick one, also think about, hey, which one is something I haven't tried before? Let me try that out. Or which is something that I really like and I want to explore more deeply, all right? So, what are these 10 tools that I'm going to go over today? The first one, as you might guess, is the breath. And when we breathe, it's been described that the breath is like the kite string that brings our mind to the present moment. And so when we breathe, we're able to pull that mind back in. We're able to come into the body in a much more quick way. So that's the first one, the breath. And the second one, again, maybe no surprise here, is darkness. And by that, I don't mean what's going on outside in the world. I mean what's going on when you close your eyes. It's almost like you're putting yourself inside a veil where you can't see too much. And that's a really helpful tool for going inside. It's kind of like going into a cave, going into the womb, landing into the body. So those two are probably ones that you've used before. And the others you might have as well. So think about where you might have. One of them is smell. So when you use essential oils or fragrances, if you go to like ceremonies and temples or churches where incense is used, that can be a very powerful tool, because at the end of the day, it's really about bringing us back into that present moment. And the more senses we stimulate or don't stimulate, like the darkness, the more able we are to come into body time. So the smell is very powerful, and pay attention to that. Using an essential oil before meditation, using like meditation, using products that help facilitate meditation, such as Aura-Soma, all of them really help bring you back into present time. Another one is color. So there's, I believe, various different colored lights that, like if you look into technology and meditation that people use, the flashing of light in certain ratios can stimulate meditative states if your eyes are closed. There is, if you were joining me on the world tour of meditation earlier, there was an interview with someone there called Laurent Suara, who has developed this system called light sound vibration at the pyramids of Chi in Bali that just reopened up yesterday with social distancing in place. And they use color there, not color, but lights. When you're lying down, all these lights and the way they flash, that can really bring people into very deep states where the brain waves do things. So that's another one. A fourth one is a mixture of color and smell. So for instance, something like Orosoma that you might have heard of, or that if you followed me for a while, you've probably heard me say this before. But things that bring together the language of color and smell, like oils that have to do with colors, or fragrances that you associate with a color, because then you're stimulating the visual part of you and the sensory part of you, and that can be extremely powerful. So a way you might have used this already in a meditation is potentially some kind of visualization, where maybe you're thinking about the chakras or boundary colors or something like that, where maybe you're also keying that into a particular fragrance. Maybe you're like imagining smelling sandal, or maybe you're lighting a particular incense when you do that. So that sort of like trains you to associate that color, those smells, with a point of entry into that state. Another tool of the trade is actually fire. And in many cultures, fire is believed to be very cleansing. And so often, you know, we light candles. I've actually got one lit right here. We light candles before we meditate, or we light lamps. There are many practices that you can do involving that fire. I wouldn't suggest you do this if you don't know what you're doing, but for instance, like Vedic yagams, there's lots of offering into the fire, and that, like sitting in a space of putting things into the fire, it's really powerful. There's a sense of offering, the sense of sacredness. Even the lighting of a candle can be so sacred. And one of my favorite practices that I learned in a shamanic tradition also involves the fire, and I'm not going to teach that here, but yeah, there's something about lighting a candle and, you know, putting it out later that is reminiscent of the light within. You know, in the tradition that I was raised in, the Lord Rama, the Hindu deity Ram, it referred, like the etymology of that, Rama, has to do with the light inside of me. Ra, light, like the Egyptian god Ra, with the light, and Ma being the self. So the light inside of you. And when you gaze upon a flame or light a flame, there is something that is quite hypnotic in bringing you back into your own self, into your own light. And related to that fire is another tool, which is the light. And if you've walked down meditative paths that involve energy work or healing or things like that, then you'll notice that a lot of the work involves light. It could be imagining light emanating from your hands. It could be imagining light in a column around you. It could be imagining light out of a crystal grid. You know, there's a lot of ways of imagining working with light in that way as well. And that's 7 tools so far, and there's 3 more that I really want to mention. And this 8th one is sound. So have you ever been to a sound bath or heard someone, you know, play a gong or play a flute or a guitar, or even sat in a music concert and just felt the waves of sound washing over you? The lady Vicky Wall, who innovated Orosoma, the system of color and smell and plant that I mentioned earlier, she was actually blind in both her eyes. And what she used to say, she had this beautiful line she'd say, which is that sound is color unseen, and color is sound unheard. And the idea behind that, the way I interpret it, is that both of these, what we're looking at in the world is this extraordinary frequency of all of these beautiful energies, and we have different senses. And so when I'm talking about these tools of the trade, it's really about what are the senses that we're using? What are the senses that we're using to tap into, to see that world of vibration that's really multidimensional? And so when you use that sense of seeing, of clear seeing, you might see it as color. When you use that sense of clear listening, you might hear it as extraordinarily moving sound, moving music, the sound within you, mantras, all of that. The sound outside, the sound within. When you use your sense of feeling to experience that broad range of frequency in the world, that multidimensionality of it, then you might notice it as intuition, as gut senses, as just feeling like the hairs on your spine stand up, or, those tingles up your neck. So all of those are access points into that really multidimensional world. And the other two tools that I'd like you to consider playing with, one of them is dreams. Now, there's some teachers who'll say don't pay attention to dreams at all. They're just, musing through the subconscious. They're even more Maya, they're even more of like playing in the illusory. But I've found that not all dreams are the same. And you might have noticed that if you remember your dreams. And some dreams really have a deep sense of sacredness, a profundity around them. And one beautiful way of accessing that is to journal out your dreams in the present tense as soon as you wake up, and keep a journal of that. And I actually notice when I do that, I can go back and read a little snippet of it and be like, oh, right, that brought me right back to that feeling I was having. And related to that is the final tool I'd like you to think about, and actually the one we played around a bit on yesterday's homework, which is journaling. If you think about it, a lot of channeled works or automatic writing all just comes down through intuition. It just happens. You're in this space of flow, this space of creativity, the space of you stepping out of the way. And when you're doing that, it's very much a form of meditation. So I'd like you to consider journaling as a tool that can help you with your meditation practice, as a tool that can be meditation. So just to recap, and I'll post this afterwards in a visual summary, the 10 tools we went over were breath, darkness, smell, color and smell together, visualizations with that, fire, light in the sense of columns of light, and anything you might work with that visualizes light as cleansing. The darkness, I mentioned that already, the darkness, the closing the eyes, the going into the stillness, the turning off the noise, all of that is part of the darkness. The sound, the dreams, and the journaling, and actually I'm going to add 11th one, movement. And I think that's so important, especially today with what's going on our planet and the world. Movement, because it actually gets us into the body and can free up things that are stuck. Yesterday, some of you experienced strong emotion coming up, and that's something that actually can also happen in movement. Quite a few people have had this experience of getting into a yoga pose and suddenly feeling all this emotion rising up, and that comes up because the movement unlocks something. We are a physical body, and we are so much more. We have this whole energetic structure to us, and so when you move in certain postures, what the yogis called asanas, when you move in certain postures, the different energy flows just connect slightly differently, and so that can really push energy through your body in a different way. It's kind of like rewiring circuits, rewiring energetic circuits. So that movement, whether through a practice of yoga, whether through dance, whether through just closing your eyes and moving the way that you're called to, is another thing to consider as a tool of the trade. So reflect on that and pop in the chat box if you're able to, or in the comments, which ones of those do you already practice? And perhaps which ones of those, or which one of those do you think, oh, that's something new, I'd like to try that even more? Or, oh, I didn't think that, hey, I could deepen that. That's maybe something I already do. So pick a tool and we'll play with that a little bit more in the homework today. So for now, let's get into a little practice this morning, just a short one, experiencing some of these different ways that you can blend these tools into a practice. So I'll just guide you through meditation. It'll be a short guided meditation, and as I'm guiding it, I might just point out that something is that tool, so that you're like, oh yes, yeah, sound good? Great. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat. All right. So find yourself a comfortable seat. If you're seated on the floor, you might like to put a little pillow underneath you just so your hip has that pelvic tilt forward so that you are comfortable. Because when you are comfortable, you can let the spine elongate. And actually, I invite you today, since we're talking about the body a little, and this is one of those tools, that movement aspect, I'd like you to place your left hand at the top of your crown, like this, at the top of your crown, and just push up into it. So you'll notice the back of your neck elongating, your chin tucking in. You're using your hand to just lightly press so that your crown has something to resist into. So a deep breath in, that's another tool, the body, the breath. A deep breath in, and let it out with an audible sigh. And release that left hand back down. Let your palms relax. Another deep breath in. Excellent. And if your eyes are open, I invite you to veil yourself just for these few moments in the darkness by closing your eyes. And as you pull that shroud of the night around you, as you close those eyes, allow that shroud of the night, allow that darkness to also veil you from any of the sounds, any of the external stimuli, any of the energetic connections or thoughts you might be having right before we started. So really inviting in the veil of the shadow, the veil of the dark, to cloak you protectively so that you can go into that cave within you, into that place of the light, of the fire within you. You might even imagine actually pulling that cloak around you closer and closer so that you're really wrapped, protected. And now I'd like you to bring your awareness to your belly. Your breathing, moving belly. The part of your body where the very first cell that was ever created within you was born. And as you bring your awareness to that belly, imagine a gentle glow, a gentle golden light, shining from the center of your being. It could be just a pinprick of golden light, or it could be bright and radiating out of you. It doesn't matter. Just imagine that golden glow. now gently let that shroud of darkness, let that veil, that cloak, just melt away around you. Just let it falling off. And with every exhalation, I'd like you to imagine a pale blue sphere gathering around you. With every out-breath, a bit of letting go into a pale blue sphere of light, of color that gathers around you. Every exhalation into the energy of peace, imagining the pale blue sphere that surrounds you. And with every inhalation, if you wish, you may bring your attention to that gold light within. Every exhalation, letting go into that pale blue sphere that surrounds you. Color, letting go with the breath. And wherever you are, let us weave in the experience of sound, your own sound. If you're out in public, I invite you to do this softly if you're self-conscious. And if you are in the privacy of your own space, take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, exhale with a and again, exhaling with a deep breath in. And make your own sound. We'll do that a third time. This third time, bring your awareness to the vibration of sound within you, within this container of gold light, within the space of the light inside, within the space of the cavern, of the cave, of the shadow inside. Whatever it is you experience inside, on the next making of this sound, feel the vibration in your body. Ready? Notice the effect of that sound. If your awareness naturally concentrates at the center of your forehead, then allow it to do so. If the mind wanders, bring it back to the breath, that kite string, the most important of all the tools. Notice any other sensations that might come up in your body. And now I invite you to bring your awareness to your pelvic floor, your perineum. Just notice what you feel there. Imagine your breath coming in through your nose and going all the way down, 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 down to your pelvic floor, to your perineum, and almost striking it, hitting it like a gong. And then coming back out your breath, back up and out through the nose. And again, imagine your breath coming in, all the way down, 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 playing the gong of your pelvic floor. And coming back out. Up, up, up through the nose. And this third time, just as we did with the sound, imagine it striking, and then notice the effect of that resonance, the effect of that vibration, the effect, the movement of that gong in your body. So ready for the third time? Taking a deep breath in, letting the breath come in, go down, 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 strike that pelvic floor, and just notice it vibrate in the body. You can just let the breath do what it does naturally. Notice the vibration, the unseen sound. Sound is color unseen. The unseen sound. And one more time. Breathing in. Imagining your breath going down, 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 striking your pelvic floor as a gong is struck. And then noticing the vibration of that ripple in you. It might ripple out of you, but pay attention to your being, the cavern of space within you. And let this sound ripple through you. And one more time. And after the strike, just let the breath do what it wants to do. You bring your awareness to noticing the vibration, noticing the waves of sound. So breathing in, breath going down, 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 and play that gong once. And notice, almost like a music concert. Let the breath do whatever it wants. Right. So gently find some movement in your fingertips and your toes. I think that's quite enough for one day. So find some movement in your fingertips, your toes. Maybe move your pelvis a little bit. You might like to just rock back and forth where you are in circles. And yeah, integrating that 11th tool that I mentioned. Any way that your body wants to move right now, just let it move. Don't think about it. Just let your body move however it wants to move. And that includes letting the breath move however it wants to move. That includes letting the voice move however it wants to move. And when you're ready, just gently open your eyes. I've got the sun shining on me, so I can't see anything. Okay, I can now. So gently open your eyes. And if you're watching this live, please just type me a quick note to let me know how you are, how that experience was, and what you're feeling right now. That is one thing I much prefer about teaching, like over Zoom. Get to see you and hear from you better. So please type me a note, just letting me know how that experience was, what you're feeling right now. And while we do that, while we wait for that feedback to come, just allow yourself to take in some soothing breaths, some balancing breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Move, open and close, move in any way that your body feels like. And in through the nose, out through the mouth. Once more, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Thank you, Barbara. Glad to know you're doing well. The energy that I felt there was extraordinarily intense, which is actually why I want to check in, because intensity can be really beautiful for some people. If you didn't feel the intensity, that's absolutely fine. You're still doing the right thing. But if you did feel intensity, sometimes it's wonderful and sometimes it can be a little jarring. So that's part of why I'm waiting for the feedback. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You might like to, actually, if you are interested in a meditation practice or a spiritual practice of any kind, get a journal or continue on the piece of paper from yesterday. And you might like to just write down whatever you're feeling right now, whatever comes up in this practice, whatever you experience, just write. It's not writing to take notes. It's not writing to learn. It's not writing as study. It's writing as process. It's writing as letting whatever comes come. You never need to read it again, but just it's a process. And the other thing that you might like to do is lie down for a little while. After a deep yoga practice, it is recommended to do Shavasana, the lying down posture. And it is actually said, if you've ever been to a yoga class, that's like the fun one at the end, but it's actually said that Shavasana is the hardest posture to do correctly. So you might like to just lie down for a little bit, letting the breaths just be soothing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. If you feel like you would like even more balance, then please make a comment or ping me, or instant message me or email me or something. You have access to me. Please ping me, and yeah, I can find out what you need. But right now, just in through the nose, out through the mouth. Another in through the nose. And this time out with a sound. Once more, and you might like to actually place your hand on your body somewhere. And let that sigh, let that exhalation, let that come from the place where you placed your hand on your body. Because there's a reason you've placed your hand on the body wherever you did, and you might not know what the reason is, and you don't need to. But wherever you placed your hand, let that place fuel the exhale. In through the nose. Very good. Very good. So that was an experience for today to illustrate some of the tools. And I call them tools just because tools of the trade sounds nice and it sounds catchy, but really it's so much deeper than that. Not the tools aren't deep, but the breath isn't a tool, the breath is your friend. Like, you wouldn't call a friend a tool, and if you did, then you'd be one. So they're not really tools to the trade, it just sounds nice. But the breath, that veil of darkness, we experienced those, or at least we played around with them, and whatever your experience was, honor it. Would love to hear from you. We didn't use smell, we didn't visualize smell, or we didn't actually use it either. We did do color. How did we do color? The gold, the blue. We didn't use fire. You can also, by the way, fire could also be a visualization, an internal thing. If you're into some like spiritual, new agey things, there's all this like violet flame fire, Saint Germain fire. That's another example of fire. We didn't do that. We did light. Did we do light? I don't remember. Did you tell me? Did we do light? There was a lot of light in the camera. The sound. And then I invite you to do some journaling after. I really invite you to just do some journaling. Didn't do dreams, obviously. The sound, we did the 11th one, movement. We did a bit of movement when we started and in the end. And definitely place a hand wherever it needs to go. And again, in breath. So there's one thing I wanted to say about sound. I don't think I said it. It came to mind, but it didn't feel right to say just then. Which is, there's actually two different kinds of sound. There is sound that's inside, and then there is sound that's outside. And if you have a lot of experience with these kinds of practices, then you might notice that sometimes you maybe chant a mantra internally, sometimes you chant it externally, and there is a difference to those. They do different things. So there's really two kinds of sound. What we did today was scratching the surface, I think, of internal sound. As in, we first just played with sound, with the and then the third time we did that, we just brought it in a bit in terms of noticing the vibration within you. And what we did with the breath, the pelvic floor, and the sound there, well, I guess that's not a literal sound, it's more of a felt sound, but it's sound nonetheless. And yeah, that's definitely an internal sound, in that it generates within you. It's kind of like when you go to a music concert and you listen to the pianist play and the feeling that you get. The pianist has played a sound and it's filled the environment around you. When you go and you notice the sound within you, or when we did what we did just now in that practice, and I don't recommend practicing that outside of this. I don't recommend playing around with that any further than we did just now. But when you do the sound that we did just now, that's more of letting the vibration of sound change what's inside of you, or clear you on the inside, and then that gets to vibrate out. So when a pianist plays, there is this, when music is played, it fills a space, and then that affects you. But when it comes from the inside out, it's just the reverse process. You're like using it to, you know how you can clean things with sound? Like with the vibration of sound, you can like actually clean things. And I mean that quite physically. I don't mean that in a boo-woo sense. Like I think when you take your like glasses to the glass shop, they like vibrate it, and the vibration like shakes off the dust. So that's kind of what sound does on the inside. Yeah, so those are a few thoughts on today's lesson, Tools of the Trade, and hopefully you got to experience some of those. So I'd love to hear what you experienced. Please comment. That is important to me, not because I need you to comment, but because I don't think I'm really teaching you something terribly introductory or simple. I think I'm weaving together a few different things, and so, you know, all of this is an individual experience, you know, and what your experience is really matters and really helps feedback what I teach you. So for that reason, your feedback is very helpful. And the homework for today, you know, my mind is kind of blank. What is the homework for today? The homework for today is, oh, this is a very simple one. Okay, it's going to be picking one of the tools that we went over, one of those friends that we went over, commenting and saying what it is you've picked, and what you're picking it for is you're picking it to explore it a little bit more. So pick something Either something you've used before and you know well, like breath, not used, but you know what I mean, befriended, and either deepen that friendship, like go on a date with your breath, or you know, do something that maybe you didn't think of as meditation. Perhaps it's like lighting a candle and make sure to blow it out or put it out in a non-blowing way, however you want. Make sure to put it out, but pick something that pick something you know well and want to deepen, or pick something new and explore it and think about how you might like to use it. Think about how you might maybe have experienced it already in your life and how it could assist you further in your meditation. For instance, maybe you've like paid attention to dreams and sound and journaling and color and smell and other aspects of your life, like when you're cooking or when you're in the shower using nicely fragrant soaps. So think about how you can take those experiences and bring that into your meditation practice and deepen that, and then share that as well if you get any insight from that. So minimum homework, pick a tool and share, comment what that tool is. Extra credit homework. God, I feel like a school teacher. Extra credit homework is tell us what you've experienced with that tool and your thoughts around how you want to use that more. I see another comment. I'm glad to hear that, Barbara. Glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, cool. That inner gong just kind of came up. I wasn't expecting it. It is very powerful, so I certainly wasn't expecting to teach that on a live class where I can't even see you. But yeah, so don't play around with that too much more, particularly if you're new to meditating. But pick that tool, post what it is, and yeah, see you tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying this class. Would love feedback. Have a beautiful day, and let me know how you are, because I care about you, so let me know how you are. Lots and lots and lots of love. Thanks for joining.